Okay, so I'm going to try to give you an overview of liberal arts at RISD, and including what happens in the first year as well as what happens subsequently in the second, third, and fourth years, and also the kinds of opportunities that we provide for students. So we have three goals in our liberal arts program. We like to think of our mission as being three-pronged. So the first one is to provide your students with an outstanding liberal arts education. And here our conception is that this is really a kind of baseline of critical thinking skills, writing skills, cultural literacy that one expects for any student that goes to any kind of college. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you would find at a liberal arts college, that an engineering major would be expected to take, but we think it's also very, very important for art and design students. When they go out into the world, they have to know a little bit about their culture and the world, be able to be articulate about their work, and so on. So that's the first prong. The second one is to provide students with the opportunity to focus a little bit more on liberal arts if they so choose. And so this is what Ed mentioned as the concentrations. These are essentially like minors that a student can do in any of the liberal arts departments. And then thirdly, this kind of connects up with Joanne's example of the work that the student did on the Watts riot. We also want to provide opportunities for students to deepen and enrich their studio work with liberal arts studies. So that's just a perfect case, in order to do something meaningful about that particular event in American history, you have to really understand what it was about, what its causes were, maybe look at writings by sociologists, political scientists, historians, and so on. And we really feel strongly that the more of that kind of knowledge that exists for a student, the better they can be as an artist and designer. We have three departments in liberal arts. There's history of art and visual culture. The relevance of that is obvious. They do art, architecture, and design from across the world. There's history, philosophy, and the social sciences. And this is kind of our grab bag department. It's just what it says. We teach history courses, anthropology, religion, psychology, sociology, philosophy, and those things are taught both topically as well as historically. And then finally we have literary arts and studies, and that's the study of literature, not just English literature, British and American, but also literature from across the world. And we also have a lot of courses in creative writing, in poetry writing, fiction, nonfiction, and those are very popular with students. So if a student is interested in deepening or focusing their liberal arts studies, they could do a concentration in any of these three departments to supplement their major, their art and design major. We're also now in the process of working on a cross-college concentration in nature, culture, and sustainability, which would involve taking courses both in liberal arts as well as studio courses that are particularly focused on environmental and sustainability issues. That's right now with the faculty committee, and we hope that that will be passed and put in place in the near future. In addition to courses that are in those three departments, we have a variety of electives, a Foundations of Writing program, actually it's called Fundamentals of Writing, for students that need more help with that. Science courses, a variety of interdisciplinary courses. There are what we call history of courses in almost every department, so there'll be a course specifically in history of photography or history of ID, history of apparel, that students often take to satisfy some of their liberal arts requirements. There is also a long-standing agreement with Brown University where students can take courses there. Many students do this, especially in areas that we don't have courses in or don't have a lot of. So if a student wants to continue in their language studies, for example, Brown has lots of that. We are trying to expand our science curriculum, and we do have some science, but obviously can't offer the range of things that you can have at a major research university. And then it's just a wealth of resources up there, and so many students take advantage of that. And most of those courses virtually all of them can be applied towards the RISD liberal arts requirements. My faculty, I have something like 27 full-time faculty and 80 part-time adjunct faculty. Almost all of them are PhDs from outstanding graduate programs. They come to teach at RISD because they have a strong commitment to teaching, and most of them have sort of interests, sort of personal interests in art and design, so that's why they're here, and they're also active scholars and writers. So this is a table of the liberal arts requirements over the full 4 years. In total, students have to take 42 credits out of the total of 126 that are required for graduation. And that amounts to 14 courses. And they're divided up with 4 courses in history of art and visual culture, 3 in history, philosophy, and social sciences, 3 in literary arts and studies, and then 4 just sort of open slots where a student can take courses in any of the 3 departments, can take interdisciplinary courses or science courses that don't, fit in one of those departments, or anything else that has the liberal arts focus to it. Here's the typical first year. So Joanne has told you about the drawing, design, and spatial dynamics. And you can see that those 3 courses in foundation studies are both in the fall and in the spring. In winter sessions, students can take a studio elective, and often what they do is it's a time to try out a major so that you can take an fine arts or design course in what you think you might want to major in. And then also many want to get a jump on their liberal arts requirements by doing an elective. But what our first year program consists in is 4 required courses. So there's a course in history of art and visual culture, which is an introduction to the field and to the discipline of art history, and really also to the faculty in art history. It's taught as a team-taught course. It's held in the RISD auditorium, which seats 500. So there's typically 400 or 500. Can't get too excited up here. 400 or 500 students in there, and then every 2 weeks there'll be lectures by one of the full-time faculty. That's accompanied by breakout sections, so there are 22 sections of art history, and we've now started to schedule those so that they're actually kind of go along with the foundation studies sections, and we're trying to encourage faculty to work together, to be aware of what each other's projects are across foundation studies and art history, and we had some very interesting work along those lines last year. In addition to that course in the fall, there's a literature seminar, and those are also run as sort of separate courses with the literary arts and studies faculty. The books that you read and the writing that you do in those different sections may be different, but they're all have in common certain expectations about how much writing you do and so on. In the spring, there's a second course in art history, which is topics-based, and so there will be running, again, like 20 different courses, and the focus will be different. It's going from the sort of very broad view that you get in the fall to a more focused study on one particular part of the world or one particular period. So there might be a course in Baroque art and design, or in African art and design, contemporary, things like that. And then the second course in the spring is going to be topics in history, philosophy, and social science, and those tend to be things like introduction to philosophy, introduction to psychology, and so on. Winter session, there was some mention of travel courses. This is something that students can do after their first year, and this is an example of some of the kinds of courses that we have run. It involves going to country traveling and then connecting that up with some fairly intensive liberal arts study. Here's a little bit more about the concentrations. They require either 24, which is 8 courses, or 27 credits, which is 9 courses. For example, in history of art and visual culture, the 9 courses, 4 of those are the required required courses that you have to take anyway, and so the way students manage to do this is that they'll devote their elective courses to art history as well. So right there you have 8 courses. And then in addition, often it's possible to take a course from another department that would be acceptable towards the concentration if it's on something related. So it's not difficult for students to do these within the framework of their graduation requirements. Support for liberal arts study. We have a wonderful RISD library, the Providence Athenaeum, which is just up the street, and Brown Library, which students can also use. I hope that you all will get to see the RISD library because it's just a wonderful space. It was redeveloped a number of years ago, and they did a fabulous job, and it just has this great feel to it. The RISD Museum of Art, of course, which is used extensively, especially for the art history courses. There are so many events on our campus and Brown campus that you can't possibly, take advantage of even a fraction of them. We have a wonderful writing center for students who need more help with that, and they work very closely with our courses. Liberal Arts Office, we do drop-in advising for any questions about transfer credits, requirements, and so on. And then we have web pages. Here's sort of some of the basics about transfer and AP credits. I know students always want to know about that. We will do an evaluation if you send us the materials over the summer. We need official transcripts or official notification from AP in order to be able to evaluate these. You can transfer in up to 9 credits of liberal arts for AP courses with a score of 4 or 5, except for the English, Lang, Comp. And those will be applied towards your liberal arts requirements. We also accept transfer credit for liberal arts courses taken at any accredited nonprofit residential college, as long as you've completed it with a C or better. And so what a lot of students do, we're signing a lot of forms right now for that, they will use their summers to take liberal arts courses to free up their RISD schedule if they want to use those slots for other kinds of courses. We don't take waivers. We do take waivers for the literary arts and studies seminar in the fall and for the art history course in the spring, but there are no waivers for the H101 or the S101. We feel that the kind of approach we take in those courses is fairly unique to RISD, and we want all students to take our courses. But if you had, for example, AP in American history, which I know many students take, in U.S. history, that would then be applied to one of your history, philosophy, and social science electives. So if you have any particular questions, you can try to catch me later or stop by the liberal arts office. My staff is very well trained in answering these questions. So, any specific questions I can answer?